So what is a day in the life of a product manager? The reality is that these days for a product manager when you're working is going to be quite different from day to day. But there's going to be some constants on what is going on the days. So let's try to first go through what is my typical day and then let's get to the conclusions. So the typical day starts somewhere around 8 in the morning. And usually this time until the first meeting depends on what you consider being productive, it's actually the most productive part of the day. Especially if we think that being productive is being able to advance certain projects and being able to focus on delivering and advancing some work that you might have not been able to do. And we don't consider maybe being part of meetings as being productive, which is maybe not correct. So typically at this time of the day, I would start with a quick read through inbox, try to answer anything that can be answered quickly, and whatever cannot be answered, somehow generate a task that will be prioritized and then solved during the day. Next, we have a common backlog for our product team. Then it's just looking into what are the tasks that needs to be doing. So which one is the potential task that I had not finalized to continue working on it? So it's something in progress, or is there something new that I had to work with? So usually at that time, I try to pick one of those and focus on actually giving my input, whatever is required to advance that task. This can be creating a business model or trying to do a time exercise. So what is the information that we are going to need for that one, and try to structure the case there. This typically will last around almost 1 hour, 1 hour 15 minutes. I have every other day a management meeting, being part of management team as a product director. So this is usually a short meeting that happens around 9:15. This can take from 15 minutes to half an hour, depends on the day. It's not extremely structured meeting, so it's not a round table, or it's not like a daily where everybody goes and tells what they have been doing, what they're going to do, and what are the impediments. It's a little more or less structured from that point of view. After this meeting, I try usually to continue working on whatever was the tasks that I started working with. So if I was working in some business models, I try to continue advancing it. Typically at this point, I don't have much time left because I usually have daily meetings at 10 o'clock, which is our daily product stand-up. During the product stand-up, we just try to follow a normal Scrum daily. So we go, each one of the team members, talking about what we have been doing, what are we going to do today, and what are our impediments. So this works quite well, and usually we solve it in around 15 to 20 minutes. We are not only our product team, but we also include the people from R&D that is working directly with the product managers in order to actually execute the project. So it's an extended team. So this means that we are about 8 people typically in this meeting. Then after this meeting and after lunch, there is many times something that is highlighted during the daily that needs some attention. At that point, we typically just try to sit up together with the people that are involved and actually try to see how we are going to address this. So usually we notice some kind of impediments or something that needs maybe thinking and actually trying to address. So we try to see how we can actually make sure that we remove potential impediments and how we can get it moving. This doesn't mean that during that after this daily we actually go and solve whatever issues or impediments that we have found, but we just try to make sure that how can we help each other to actually get this moving forward. And as part of the daily, of course, we try to work very closely as a team, which means that many times we are working together, trying to, from the get-go, to align with how we are working and try to work in a very collaborative way. After this daily and the time after the daily, usually we take the lunch break. This is usually somewhere between 11 and 11:30, and it lasts for half an hour about. So that's usually the normal lunch break. After that, we tend to come back somewhere around between 11:30, 12, coffee, and then we continue working. So typically at this point, and especially during the daily, many times we have agreed that we are going to work towards some end and try to help each other in advancing some of the projects. So as I said earlier, many times actually don't try to work too independently. We kind of work independently. I mean, everybody can drive their own projects, but we try to very actively work together in different projects. So if we are doing specifications for a new project, many times I sit down with the product managers in order to actually write those things down from the get-go. So understanding from the group point of view, what are the things that we need to pay attention to? And we also get the people from R&D to actually get their input, so we understand potential efforts for the tasks that we are planning. So now in the afternoon, many times what happens is that we will have a set of different meetings, and these obviously are going to be quite different from day to day. But you're going to have some either regular meetings like every other day, sometimes you have weekly meetings, and there's many different types of meetings where you had to actually collaborate or align projects with other team members. So these are typically more like collaboration and alignment projects where you are actually trying to see where's the overall project, trying to give your input where needed, and try to actually help that these projects are advancing. So what are some of the examples of these meetings? So as I said first, they can be alignment meetings where you are actually trying to track the progress of a project or several projects, see where they are at, where is your input needed, how can you help bringing information into the table. But we also try to be very active within the product team in how people are documenting the progress of this project. So we try to actively track progress on daily basis, so we don't try to wait until like a weekly or bi-weekly meetings to actually try to figure out where we are at. Another type of meeting that we have is just depends on how do you call it. These are planning sessions, and this depends a lot on the focus of the plan. We have relatively regular planning sessions, of course, because we are actually trying to continuously deliver value to our customers, which means that we are actually planning what is going to come in our next release, which is usually coming on a either monthly or bi-monthly basis. This means that we are often looking into what is going to be in this short period of time, what is going to be planned, what is going to be addressed, how we are going to move forward. Then we also have long-term planning sessions where we try to look further in the future. What do we want to do in the next year? What do we want to do in the next quarter or even several years from now? How are we going to plan new potential products in the future? So in these planning sessions, of course, these long-term ones usually don't happen so often, but we try to keep them also to try to see how do we have to adapt also to changing conditions in the outside world. This can be customers, this can be new technologies, but how can we try to adapt potential ideas that we have been already looking forward in the past, but is there any new information that we need to review? And many times we start projects that we think that they are one track, but many times, of course, projects have dependencies. And sometimes when you start to grow and groom ideas, that they start to evolve, then you start to see all the dependencies and how this is going to behave, for example, as an ecosystem. So we also have this type of meetings where we try to actually see what are the dependencies between all the different projects, so we don't try to isolate them, but see the holistic point of view. Obviously, we also have meetings with customers or users where we actually try to gauge their feedback, or we actually try to find out more information from them. So this can be two different types. Sometimes it's just some customer having problems. How can you help them? How can you see that you can solve their problems? But sometimes it's trying to actually see when you are having new ideas, new product ideas, you're designing potentially new products. How is this perceived and validated by these users? Depends a lot on your company, how many users, how many customers do you have. It is very limited how many people can you talk with. So you will have to define a set of group of customers that you can actually dynamically or relatively often can communicate with them and understand what they are trying to do. How can you help them in their daily lives? And also it's very important here to always take the point of view of what is your vision and strategy as a product and a product manager. How are these needs or how are these problems of the customers actually aligning with your vision and strategy? And obviously it is good to be honest and say directly when something doesn't align with your vision and strategy, because if it's something that it doesn't align, where you are not going to put your effort if you make vague promises that this might happen but you never deliver, that usually leads into disappointment for the customers, and you probably don't want that to happen. And finally, we have meetings with partners. This can be very different types of meetings. Depends on your company. Partners can mean different things. Sometimes partners are selling partners, sometimes partners are technology partners. And technology partners can be partners that you have to work with, where you are looking into how you are going to potentially integrate your software or your solutions with each other, how those products integrate seamlessly, that the workflows between those two are going. And people actually don't notice any problems when they are working with the two solutions. So typically these are more looking forward the actual value for the customer, looking on the potential technical solutions, describing on what are the standards, the open standards that we are supporting as the company in order to integrate with other solutions. So here it's very important that you understand very well what are your APIs, what is your potential integrations, that you can drive that conversation fluently with these potential partners. Of course, sometimes it goes into very technical when you are actually trying to solve a problem, try to actually do the implementation. There is better to have people from your engineering teams that come and help you to give the answers, because most likely as a product manager, unless you are extremely technical, you are not going to have those answers. And then you have selling partners or different types of partners that might be doing, for example, training for you or support for you. These partners, the meetings are usually going to be a little different. They are going to act typically as the stakeholders for their own customers or your customers, depends a little bit how the organization goes. But usually they're going to try to bring up a little bit the customer point of view, but also their own business point of view. In the end, they are somehow your customer as well, people that are selling your products. So they're going to bring different points of view of how me as a selling partner I want to sell more, but also how me as a selling partner I want to give value to my end customers. The discussions, the conversations are going in a different direction, where you're trying to understand what is the value that they would like to offer, and is this value actually aligning with my value as a company that I want to provide in the vision of my product. And this is sometimes a little bit hard conversations, because you don't always have the answer that they want. And this is something that you had to gauge, and how you had to actually learn to be political also when you had these conversations with the partners, that how can you actually have this relationship that makes sense for both sides. So typically these meetings in the afternoon can take some couple of hours, 2-3 hours, depends on the day and depends on how much people are actually booking these different recurring meetings, let's call them that way. That leaves me after, in the end of the day, about 1 to 2 hours left in the afternoon to continue working. Usually at this point I try to actually look also into have planned something already with the team and the different members on product team. This can be our go-to-market architect, or can be our product managers or data scientists, and try to actually work with them to see how are we going to move forward a project. As I said, we like to work together. We like to drive projects quite much in a very collaborative way from the very beginning. So in a way, it's like pair programming for software engineers, that we try to sit down together and actually we are looking into, earlier I talked about a business case, or it can be the new requirements for a new product or a new feature in the product, where we just sit down and start defining all these things. Okay, so what is the problem that we see for the customers that this feature is going to address? What is the actual potential solution or mock-ups that we think that could help the customers, how we are going to engage with the customers, how we are going to present this potential solution with them. Are we going to have some early meetings with them where we actually go and discuss the potential solutions? Are we going to present a prototype? Are we going to try to plan a prototype? How do we drive an MVP? And all these things. So I have created videos about some of these cases, so I'll link them here so you can take a look if you're interested. And of course, I also work quite much with the other parts of the company, like the rest of the team. So many times I try to also see how we are going to align with the rest. And this is basically a lot working with our go-to-market expert and trying to see how we are going to evolve and making sure that we only not paying attention to the planning, to the execution, but also to go to market. And go to market is many times, but obviously the rest of the company has to be giving their input and be prepared for all this, for actually having successful launches of the product. As you can see, the day of a product manager, it varies a lot. You can be in many different places and you have to be taking many different points of view. You are going to work in many different levels. Sometimes you are going to focus more on the vision, sometimes you focus more on the strategy. Most of the time you are going to be actually working on the execution phase, and you are going to have to collaborate a lot with other stakeholders in order to actually have a proper go-to-market of your products, where you actually try to make sure that your products are successfully launched, adopt, sell according to whatever KPIs you have defined. So if you think about this, in the end, work of a product manager has to be extremely self-driven to understand that you had to be in many ways in a driving position trying to make these products a success, these new features a success, and also you actually have to help collaborate and enable collaboration for others in the team, where you actually try to get them the information, get their feedback, get their input, give your feedback, and actually try to work that, make sure that everybody is working towards a goal, which usually is releasing a product and making it successful. But as you can see, this is done by different ways. Meetings, working together, meetings with different type of people, and also sometimes, of course, working alone and trying to plan things and driving them from also your point of view. But obviously you can never forget that you also had to work, and your work depends a lot on other teams. And you're in a very central position within the organization where you actually had to try to work as much as possible with all the different members or teams in the organization. So how about you? What are the things that are happening during your day? Is it very different from what I talk here? Did I miss something that maybe I should pay more attention to that I haven't? There is so many things going on in the life of a product manager that sometimes it's difficult to remember all the things that we are doing. So hopefully I managed to actually remember all of them and put them in this video. Please comment below and let me know. And again, as always, if you like this video, remember to subscribe and like it, and I will see you in the next one. Stay safe.